Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage and welcome to a brand new series of Sid Meier's Civilization 5 with the Brave New World expansion. Quite a few of you have been asking me to do a video similar to this since the last one as Germany going for a cultural victory, and you've been asking me to do a British naval victory. Well, there isn't really such a thing as a naval victory per se. There's certainly a domination victory, and if we were on a Archipelago map, that certainly means there's going to be a lot more naval fighting. So that's what we've done. We are playing as England. We are on a Archipelago map against 7 other civilizations, and I've bumped the difficulty up to King. We were playing on Prince last time, so it's going to be a bit more difficult. I always find that the domination victories are a little more difficult anyway. There are certain things that we do have to take into consideration. So bear in mind, in order to get a domination victory, you have to siege and control all of the other Civs capital cities, or their original capital cities. Now it has changed because in the original Civ 5 and in Gods and Kings, all you needed to do was be the last Civ remaining to hold your own capital. But that did lead to some cheesy victories. If you imagine a situation where you might have 3 civilizations, Civilization A captures the capital city of Civilization B, and Civilization B in return captures the capital city of Civilization A. Civilization C wins because they're the only player that have their original capital city, and they've done absolutely nothing to earn it. So it was changed in Brave New World, so you actually have to capture and hold all of the other capitals. So what does that mean in terms of gameplay? Well, first of all, it means when you consider our own capital, plus we need to capture another 7. Obviously, when we capture the 7th one, the game is over anyway. So we're going to have to capture and hold another 6, which means in total we're going to have, at some point, at least 7 cities. That's our own, plus 6 others. That's assuming we only build 1 city. This means happiness is going to be a problem. We need to do an awful lot to make sure we keep our happiness levels high, as war really knocks that down. And you never really want a civilization to be unhappy on a domination victory, because if you are going to war, your soldiers will actually receive a handicap if they aren't happy. They won't fight as well, so you need to keep happy. Obviously, we do get some of our happiness from luxury resources. Now, one of the problems, of course, with a domination victory is you become a warmonger. And the higher your warmonger penalty gets, the less likely the other civilizations will be to trade with you, making it harder to get access to luxury resources. Of course, you can always just go and take the ones that you want, which is certainly an option. So let's just have a quick look at England and see what we get with them, for those of you who don't already know. If we go and have a look at the civilizations and look at, where are we? England. So first of all, let us go and have a look at Elizabeth and see what we actually get as a civilization. First of all, we get 1 extra spy. Now, spies aren't all that useful in a domination victory. Certainly they help you keep an eye on your opponents, but they're more useful for diplomatic victories and cultural victories than anything else, and even a little bit for scientific victories. I would say out of the 4 victory types, spies are probably the least useful in a domination victory. But what we do have, and this is brilliant for our Archipelago style map, is 2 movement, or extra plus 2 movement, for all naval units. Now that is a big deal. When you consider most naval units only have movement between 4 and 8, to have an extra 2 is absolutely fantastic, so that's going to be really good for us. We also have 2 unique units. We have the Longbowman. Now, the Longbowman actually is just an upgraded... is it an archer? Let's have a look. Crossbowman. It's actually an upgraded crossbowman. So, it has 1 additional range compared to the crossbowman. Now, it actually says range 2. Which I believe is incorrect. I always thought the Longbowmen had a range of 3, but they are certainly worth having. Even though we are going to be doing mostly naval warfare, there are going to be some cities that are inland, and we are going to need land units, but certainly the Longbowmen are very, very useful. I was sure that crossbowmen actually had a range. Yeah, crossbowmen have a range of 2. So the Longbowmen must have a range of 3, as I originally thought, which makes longbowmen extremely useful because at that early stage in the game, there aren't really any other units that have a range of 3. In fact, I think the only other units that do have a range of 3 are things like the artillery, the mobile rocket artillery, and the battleships, which you don't get until much later in the game. So they are a really, really nice land unit, but one of the most interesting units we have is the Ship of the Line. Now, this is a Renaissance-era naval unit, and only the English can build it. It actually replaces the normal frigate, and it has a movement of 5. The normal frigate has a movement of 5. Combat, 25, 28. Just trying to remember the difference. Yeah, so we do have much better range and better naval, better melee combat. So it is a nice ship. It also has extra sight. So we really, really want to get these ships of the line built, especially given the fact that we get an extra 2 movement anyway. So first of all, even though it has a base movement of 5, just the fact that we're playing England means it has a base movement of 7. Now, technology-wise, one thing that we really want to go for is we want to, as quick as we can, work our way towards the Great Lighthouse, because the Great Lighthouse will give all military naval units an extra 1 movement and 1 sight, which immediately means that our Ship of the Line is going to have 8 movement, and that is going to very, very quickly make us one of the most, if not the most powerful naval unit on the map. So that's enough waffle. Let's get things started. This is where we have been dumped to start with. It's not a bad little area of land. It's on the coast, which is definitely what we want. We're also next to a river and next to a hill, so we've got production options. We've got silver close by, and we've got 2, so we can get some early trade going. We have got some sheep. They're a little bit out of the way, but at least we do have some extra food sources. Do have a random desert tile in there. We've also got some stone, which we can use to get a bit more extra production going, and we've got some silk. And immediately we can also see that on a neighbouring island, we've got some gems that we could get as well, and we've got a mountain. So I think this is quite a decent place to settle down. I don't see any point in wasting turns by moving around looking for a better spot. Just before we do settle, what I will do is move the warriors down just to see if we do uncover anything. Got a lot more desert down here, so it's certainly not worth moving the settlers. Let's pop them down straight away, and we have London. Now, going into the tech tree, as I said, we do really want to rush Great Lighthouse. Now, that is probably the most important thing for me at this stage in the game. Now, bear in mind that doesn't mean that we can forgo things like getting culture and science. Certainly in the domination victory, you do want to stay ahead of the tech curve if you can, because having better units means more chance of you winning. You also, of course, want to make sure that you keep high on culture, because that will allow you to adopt social policies more quickly. It'll also mean that it's less likely for other civilizations to start to gain a cultural victory over you. And that can cause real problems if you start to get a lot of unhappiness, because they can start to flip your cities. Also, you need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on some of the city-states, because if you're going to war with people all the time, it's better to have the city-states on your side than them being against you. That said, we also know that we do have stone nearby, so it would be really nice to get masonry as early as possible. So that probably will be the first thing that we do go for. So we're going to go for mining first, which will lead on to masonry. Will allow us to build a quarry. So we're going to start with mining. Choose a production. We're going to go for the standard scout first. Then we'll go for a monument to get the culture going. So let's go on to our next turn. Not an awful lot we can do. We already have discovered ancient ruins, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, we're not going to reach them on the next turn because they are a little bit too far away. But we can get them on the turn after. So I'm going to go straight into next turn now because there's nothing more we can do. And we're going to start by grabbing those ancient ruins. And we instantly get an upgrade to a spearman, which is quite nice. So let's go on to the next turn. And we will head over here. Looks like we have a lot of silver on this island, and we have found some more mountains as well. see if we can have a look around the mountains. Of course, we've moved on to a hill, so we can't actually go any further. So we're already on to turn 5, and we haven't done an awful lot. And we have ourselves some scouts. So we're going to start sending our scouts out in this direction. What we're now going to build is a monument, because that will give us some early culture and help us to adopt the social policies that we need. And just keep moving these spearmen forwards. Have a little look around behind the mountains. And hopefully find some ruins nice and early on. Okay, we found some wheat, which is strange because it is in the middle of the desert. Not particularly useful for us. Now, I'm not sure how many cities we're going to build. We probably aren't going to build that many because we will gain a fair few by conquest. But I intend to scout out as much of the map as possible in the meantime. Making full use of our scouts. Now, we've already found borders there. Now, that looks like light blue with green, which could be the Celts. Yes, it is. Tile owned by the Celts. So, we've already discovered them, which is quite useful, actually. The Celts, starting next to England, is at least historically viable. Unlike a lot of the other civilization combinations you do tend to get in this game. So, we've discovered Edinburgh. So, you know, the Celts are probably going to be our first victims. As we can see, they've only got warriors, and they don't even seem to have moved them out of their capital yet, which is quite strange. Going to have to do a river crossing on the next turn as well, which isn't going to be particularly useful for us. And we have now discovered mining. So we do want to get masonry as quickly as possible, because that will allow us to construct a quarry. And then we're probably going to then try and rush to optics as quick as we can. So let's go for masonry first. And then we can get the additional production from our stone. Obviously, we are going to need a worker as well, so we do need to bear that in mind. Let's get these guys across the river, and we have found some more ruins. Again, we can't get them on that turn because the river crossing used all of our movement up. Let's continue to scout around here, and on to the next turn. So, from what we can see with the Celts, they do seem to have a bit of food around. They've got truffles, but they've also got a fair bit of wheat. They may well be the only other player on this island with us, so we'll have to check that out. Okay, so that's given us some population growth, which is nice, and we have unfortunately ran into barbarians. But it's always good to start taking them out and getting some XP as soon as possible, because that will help us with producing a great general, so I don't mind that we have done that too much. We'll continue to move these guys around and explore as much of this island as we can. That monument's going to be finished in a couple of turns. Obviously, we did get the population boost from that ancient ruins, which is certainly going to help things out. We found a city-state. Not telling me who it belongs to, but we have found one. Right, let's start trying to take these guys out. Now, obviously, we've got the advantage that we are an upgraded unit here. Now, the thing is, barbarians don't actually heal, so even if we start to get a little bit down on health, we can just heal for a few turns and they won't. So there's always ways around that. So we're going to move on to turn 13. Our monument is complete. We're going to have another punt at these barbarians here, get this camp cleared, which will give us some early gold. What we could do, of course, is leave the camp intact and allow it to keep spawning barbarians and keep farming them for XP. But like I've said on previous videos, there is an XP cap. There's a limited amount of XP that a unit can receive from killing barbarians alone. So we're level 1. Our experience is 10 of 10. So if they get one more experience, they will become level 2 and get a promotion. Now, I think the experience cap on barbarians is 30. So once we get to level 2, we'll need 30 experience to get to level 3, which we can get from killing barbarians. But then when we get to level 3, we actually need 60 experience to get to level 4, and you can't do that from killing the barbs. So what are we going to do here? Are we going to build another settler? It's unlikely. Do we need another warrior? Probably not, because we're not going to attack straight away. We're going to get an early worker going. We really want to start getting as much production and value from our tiles as possible. We're just going to have a look and see what tiles we're working. So we are working the tiles that give us the most food and a little production. We could of course move somebody out of a 2 food tile, but that is stagnation. We're not going to grow, so we need to make sure we've got people in these food tiles. We need to get some farms going here so that these food tiles become more valuable. Then we can actually work some of the higher production tiles. So let's keep these scouts moving. And it is Zurich we found. First people to find them, which is great, which is an instant boost to our gold. I'm not doing too much exploring down around the Celts at the moment. There isn't an awful lot of point to that. We are going to upgrade these guys. Now, if I mouse over the encampment, we can see that they are on a hill, which counts as rough terrain. So we're going to take the drill promotion, the rough terrain promotion, and we're going to attack them for a minor victory. Now, we are low on health, but also so are they. I think we should be okay. If they spawn another unit, we could be in trouble, but I'm going to take that risk. So we've got some bananas near Zurich. This might be quite a decent sized piece of land, actually. So we are still working towards masonry and getting our worker. And let's have a look around. We found some elephants. Okay, we found the top edge of the island here. Now, we've got no more barbarians. Oh, we have got barbarians spawned. That is not a good thing at all. Can they kill us? Yes, they probably can, which I don't want to happen. Can't actually get away from them, so I'm going to move over onto this hex. Now, they haven't got sight of me at the moment, and hopefully they won't get sight of me, so we're going to have to try and heal up. So I mistimed that one slightly. Not a good thing. They have followed, but they can't attack. So I'm going to... Still can't get away from them. I'm going to fortify and hope that we will... that will give us a 25 defensive penalty if they attack. We'll also regain a little bit of health, so we might just be able to survive the brunt of that. Although at this point it is not certain. I'm going to have to cut through Zurich now because their borders have expanded and blocked off this hex, which is a bit of a nightmare. So let's just keep fingers crossed that I haven't completely stuffed this up and just lost my unit already. So I have got regained 10 health and we've got the 25% defensive bonus. Might be enough for us to survive this. Bear in mind, of course, we do have the bonus for being in rough terrain, and we are in rough terrain. Now, what you've got to remember is the terrain bonus is the hex that you are fighting in. So if you are attacking, it's the hex that the enemy is in, and if you are defending, it is the hex that you are in. Although, see, this where's the bonus? Yep, terrain modifier. Flanking bonus plus 10%. I'm not sure we've got a flanking bonus on them. Not sure why it's giving us a flanking bonus there. 30% plus barbarians. Not sure why they have the terrain modifier and we don't. That's quite strange, actually. Ah, there we go. It's because I got the wrong unit selected. That makes much more sense. I was going to say, these guys weren't originally scouts. So, bonus versus mounted. Drill. 15% combat strength when fighting in rough terrain, hills, forest, or jungles. We're going to keep them on fortify, because they get 25% defensive bonus on the turn that they fortify, which was last turn. So on this turn, they will actually get 50% defensive bonus, and they should heal a bit more. We've taken half the health away from these brutes, so we might be able to survive that. Before we do anything else, we are going to just move our scouts back down. Now, we can afford a social policy, so let's have a quick look at that. We're probably not going to be going down the Liberty tree all that early, because we're not too bothered about extra settlers, because most of the cities we're going to acquire by taking them from other people. Adoption is nice, because it will certainly allow us to bolster our main city more quickly, and it gives us a way to gain some extra happiness. But also honour is very good for us as well. If we adopt honour, it'll instantly give us an extra 33% combat bonus versus the barbarians, and if any new barbarian camps pop up in territory that has already been revealed, even if it's in the fog of war, providing it's already been revealed, we will get a message telling us where it is. We'll also gain culture from killing barbarians, and we'll be able to build the statue of Zeus. Now, the statue of Zeus can be quite useful if I can find it. It's not one of the ones that I normally build, and now I am scanning around trying to see where it is. Bear with me. That's the Colossus, isn't it? Yep. Where are you, Zeus? I can't see you. Nope, he's gone missing. Let's search for him. There we go. All units gain 15% combat strength when attacking cities. So it's not totally required, but it is quite nice to have. And it says there it requires bronze working, which is down here. Oh yeah, so we're currently working towards bronze working anyway. So it might be quite nice actually to do that and get the statue of Zeus. That could be quite useful. That could be our first wonder. So I think what we'll do for now is we will take honour. We'll at least spend the first point in honour. Later on we're going to be able to get things such as extra production when building combat units. We also get great generals faster. So we get a free great general to start with, and they're earned 50% faster. So it's definitely worth taking honour. If you're going for any kind of victory where you're going to have to do a lot of combat, you really need to be spending points in honour. So now that we've done that, we will actually find that if we go down here, we now have an additional bonus versus barbarians. So we actually have 63% bonus versus barbarians. So we'll go to the next turn. They may well attack again. We've regained some health. Yeah, they've very wisely decided not to attack here. Now, there is a potential problem if I try and attack them, is I will lose a lot of health, but at the same time, if I did defeat them, I'd be next to their camp, which isn't a great thing. So I'm not going to do anything with them. I'm going to let them stay there and heal a little bit more. We're just going to pop through Zurich. Now, that's not going to give us any sort of negative penalty because we didn't end the turn in their borders. Passing through doesn't count. It's only if you end the turn in the borders that you will get a penalty for trespassing, so we are fine there. 9 turns until we're done with our workers, and they are attacking again, so I'm glad that I left them there. And we have won that fight. Brilliant. So what we're going to do now, we are going to take our scouts, and we're going to have a look down around the other side of Edinburgh and see what they've got. Move on to the next turn. Not an awful lot happened there. Now we can see the Celts are already popping out warriors. They've got at least 2. So we do need to get some more military units on the board as quickly as possible. But of course we will be getting money from clearing barbarian camps. So we do have the potential ability to quick buy a warrior if we need to very shortly. So we've now completed masonry. We don't have any marble nearby, unfortunately, which means that we can't get that extra bonus on building wonders. But now that we have... Oh no, it was masonry that we was working on. I thought it was bronze working. Should I get bronze working first, or should I go straight for the optics? It would be nice to have the statue of Zeus. It would. It really would be nice to have the statue of Zeus. However, I think we've got to go for the lighthouse. That is the one thing that... I mean, I'll still have a bonus to shipping movement, even if I don't get the Great Lighthouse. My ships will be able to move 2 hexes further than anyone else's. Apart from the person who has the Great Lighthouse, I'll only be able to move 1 hex per turn further than they can. However, if I do get it, I'll be able to move 3 hexes per turn further than anybody else. So I'd prefer it to be me. So these guys have healed up. I can't attack on this turn, but I can certainly move next to the camp again. We'll keep scouting around here. Which is probably good, because it means I won't be able to build the statue of Zeus first. Unfortunately, it looks like we were 1 turn too late from finding Kathmandu. Otherwise, we could have had ourselves another potential city-state there. Now, I have moved into their borders. We may well... we'll get a little penalty for moving through their lands and trespassing, but we do need to get out through the other side, so that's not too much of a problem. Barbarian camp discovered. It has just literally popped up here, so we'll be having to deal with them soon enough. So let's take this camp out. And that is going to give us some monies. So 25 gold, we also get 8 culture, we get 5 XP. We're going to go on to the next turn. Somebody has founded their pantheon already. Increase in city ranged combat strength. Somebody can see what is coming. So let's start getting these guys moved back towards London. Now, we already have enough culture to get ourselves a second policy. 15% production when training melee units on a great general appears. That would be very, very useful. Combat strength for melee units which have another military unit in an adjacent tile. Now, we don't have an awful lot of military units to start with, so that probably isn't the best option to go for. Of course, we could go for tradition. That would increase our border expansion. It would also give us extra culture, and it would give us extra food, which would certainly be good. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to take tradition now, and then we'll drop another point in warrior code the next time we have enough, which at the current rate will be another 10 turns, maybe even quicker if we kill some barbarians. So we're trespassing in Kathmandu. We knew we would be. We have discovered that they have sugar. Now, you can actually go to war with the city-states, and you can actually take them over. Although it's probably not worth doing it, because once you start to go to war with city-states, all of the other city-states will gang up on you if you do it enough. So I'm just trying to get these guys back to London to defend it, and I'm going to take them around the north of the mountains so they can scout this corner out as they go. I've got to be careful of my workers here. Okay, so these are the world's busiest people. Greatest work. So basically this is how much production we have. We are at the bottom at the moment, which is not really surprising. So let's continue to move this unit around. Now, we found a lot of barbarians here, which is nice, because I do have a bonus against them, but it is still going to be a defeat, and I'd sooner not have to deal with them. So we are going to go round and look in another direction. That looks like it could be the end tile. I'm not too sure, but I'll find out later on. I'm not going to go north. I'm going to take these guys through this way. Obviously, we'll be ending another turn there and trespassing, but I can deal with that. I don't think we're actually going to be able to get around behind Edinburgh, which is the only potential problem. But I'd sooner not throw my scout away for nothing at all. So let's go on to the next turn. We've almost got our workers. And we have pottery, which means we can build a granary, which is brilliant. So let's move these guys forward once more. So what we're going to do is we're going to go straight here and start building a quarry. Now, in London, we have some options now. We could build ourselves a warrior, which is not a bad idea. Or we could go for the granary. Now, we don't have any wheat or bananas or deer nearby, but it would give the city 2 extra food. So it may well be worth having that. The mausoleum is nice. Gain 100 gold each time a great person is expended, which we probably won't be doing that often. Marble or stone worked by the city produces 2 gold, which would be good because we do have 1 source of stone here. But that is going to eat into our construction time an awful lot. So I think what we're going to do now, there's no particular rush on the granary, so we're going to get another warrior first. Let's start getting some combat units out. Remember, we are playing on king difficulty, so we are going to need to be a little bit more picky and choosy about the order which we build things. So onwards on to turn 28. I will take 1 gold per turn for an embassy. That is fine, because we can start using that gold to produce more military units. And of course, remember, we're going to have quite a sizable army, and you've also got army maintenance costs as well. So that is something to consider. So move these spearmen around. We're already getting to a point where we are close to being able to have another social policy. Let's keep moving our scouts. I'm going to see if we can get around the bottom here. May not be able to, but we will try. An unmet player has entered the classical era. Now, we are at the bottom on score, but things can improve. So I'm going to put my spearmen on top of the workers, just to protect them. And we are going to move our scouts around. Now, I could go up here, I suppose, but I've got a feeling that there's not an awful lot up there. We'll try and get around the bottom of Edinburgh first, before their borders expand and stop us from being able to get through completely. Now that my warriors are... well, my spearmen are protecting my workers, I'm going to get them to fortified until healed, just to get their health back. And then we'll consider sending them down to the barbarian camp. So another unmet player has entered the classical era. Now we can adopt a policy. So we've got 2 choices here. We could go for aristocracy, which would give us some extra production when building wonders. But we're not building a wonder at the moment. But we may well have the opportunity to take this before we start building the Great Lighthouse. So we're going to go for Warrior Code, which is 15% production when training melee units. Now, if you actually look in London, it's going to be 3 turns before our warrior is produced. And if we choose this, it might be enough. No, it's still on 3. It would have taken it down a little bit. But we do get a great general, which is very useful. We're going to leave him in the city for now, just to stop him getting captured by anybody else. We'll keep him safe for the time being. And we will carry on with our scouts and on to the next turn. Need 105 culture now for our next policy. Of course, these are other things you have to consider in a domination victory. Because you're taking over a lot of cities, every time you take, or every time you get an additional city, it increases your social policy costs by 10%. And with science, each city or puppeted city increases technology costs by 5%. So the more cities you have, the more your cultural policies and science is going to cost, but that is unavoidable, particularly in a domination victory. So we're going to put our great general to sleep. We can see we've got some warriors moving around. We've got another barbarian encampment as well. We knew there was one around here somewhere because our scouts discovered a load of barbarians. Maybe we can go and deal with that later, but certainly not at the moment. So we are going to carry on with our scouts. Unfortunately, we can't get round below Edinburgh, but we can now completely see how much land the Celts have got. And to be honest, they don't have an awful lot. All we can see that they've got here is a little bit of food, bit of truffles. They've got 2 warriors that we know of, potentially 3. It's too early to try and attack because we certainly wouldn't be able to do enough damage with a couple of units to take the city. We need to build ourselves a catapult or 2 before we can really think about doing that. So our worker has now finished the quarry. So I think what we're going to do now is go across the river and build a couple of farms on these tiles just to give us some extra food production. Particularly as we haven't invested too heavily in the Liberty.
He who commands the sea.
We haven't invested too heavily in, tradition. So we're not getting all these extra food benefits at the moment. Now, we have some pirates. Now, the way you actually get pirates is if you get a barbarian camp on the coast, they can actually produce barbarian ships. Not an awful lot I can do about it. I can attack it with my city, but at the same time, that can't do an awful lot against me either. So it can only attack in melee. The worst it could do is come around here and try and attack London directly, and it would get absolutely decimated if it tried to. So we have ourselves some warriors. Let's move these guys down and we'll start to have a look at the barbarians down here. Now we do have some options of things we can build. No point building a workboat. We don't have anything down here that we can work yet. Probably not an awful lot of point in building another scout. We could go for another warrior. but I think the time has probably come to build a shrine. Let's get some faith going, and hopefully we will be able to pick a pantheon that will give us some sort of benefit to our combat. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take our spearmen out and start having a look for barbarians that we can kill. So let's start building a farm there. And we'll go on to our next turn. So we are creeping up the scoreboard slowly. Obviously we are closer to the bottom than we are to the top, but I didn't expect to be at the top very early on in this game. So we have found a barbarian camp with one lot of barbarians in it. We're going to keep these warriors close by. Let's keep them on top of the hill. And we're going to send our scouts back round. We'll send them up here and we'll uncover this land up to the north. See what we can find. Okay, so let's attack these barbarians. Now, they are in a desert, which doesn't count as rough terrain, so we don't get that bonus, unfortunately. Now, they are fortified, which is giving them an extra 40% defensive strength, but we do have a 63% combat strength bonus against barbarians, and these guys are also upgraded spearmen, so we do quite an awful lot of damage to them in a single turn. Let's get these scouts moved around. And these warriors, what we could do is start moving these warriors forwards and they could help with the fight if need be. So it's a very good thing once you have honour is that if any barbarian camps pop up over here, because the land is already uncovered, we will get a warning about it. So we'll actually be able to send units back in that direction to stop them sneaking up on us and taking our workers. That's one of the worst things that can happen with barbarian camps. You think you've cleared an area of the map, so you move all of your units away, and then they spawn another camp, because a barbarian camp can spawn anywhere that no unit or player has sight on. So because there's no one around here, all these units are in the fog of war and barbarians could spawn. But because we have honour, we would get a notification about it. We do get a unit promotion, which is our pikemen again. Now, Amphibious is a much overlooked upgrade because normally if you try and attack across water with melee, it doesn't apply to ranged because obviously they just fire over the river. But if you're actually fighting someone across the river, attacking over a river gives you a penalty. So does attacking from the sea. If you're trying to land in a hex and attack the unit in there, you get a penalty. Amphibious removes that. Now, it's not too useful at this point in the game because we don't have the ability to embark, and there aren't a huge number of rivers around, so I'm not too bothered about that. But what I'm going to give these guys is give them shock, simply for the fight that they're currently in, because this is open terrain, and now they have an open terrain attack bonus of 15%. And they have a bonus versus barbarians of 63%. Now, if I move these warriors forward, what we should now have is we've got a flanking bonus. Now, that we've got a flanking bonus of 10% because we have another unit at the side of them. If we had another unit in one of these hexes here, obviously we can't really do it here because it's water, but if we had another unit in one of these hexes, we'd have a 20% flanking bonus. If we had another unit, we'd have a 30% flanking bonus. So, and these guys will have the same. If we could attack with these guys would get a 10% flanking bonus because there's another unit here next to them. So all of these things really help. So it's certainly worth having a lot of units around. Of course, what we could do is move our general with them, because our great general actually improves the combat effectiveness of other land units. Can't remember off the top of my head how much it gives them. An extra 15% combat bonus to all player-owned land units within 2 tiles. By the way, if you've ever got a unit selected, now this only works with your own units because you can't really select enemy units. But if you left-click and select one of your own units, you can right-click on their portrait in the bottom left-hand corner and it will take you straight to the Civlopedia page about that unit. So that's a really nice thing to be able to do. So we've nearly wiped those barbarians out. We were going to go up in this direction, actually. Let me just tell them to do that. We'll go on to the next turn. So the Celts have entered the classical era. Now this isn't good because these guys have just annoyingly spawned here. Now as you can see, our spearmen are currently level 3 and they have 30 experience out of 60. Now, as I said before, barbarian XP is capped at 30, which means even if these guys kill these barbarians in this camp, we'll still get the money for clearing the camp. we'll still get the culture for clearing the camp, because we get a bonus to culture from having honor. Yeah, we gain culture from killing each barbarian unit killed. And the amount of culture you get is based on their combat strength. So brutes have a combat strength of 8, so we get 8 culture for killing them. However, these guys wouldn't get any XP because they're capped. They've got 30. They won't get any more XP from killing barbarians. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack with these guys, and then these guys can get the XP. So we currently have no XP, now we have 5 XP. And we've cleared the encampment, and we get the 8 culture. What we're then going to do is move these guys around. So these guys could still attack. They're not going to be able to take either of these units in a single attack. And we still have our flanking bonus, and we have our bonus versus barbarians. And they're on a hill, so they're in rough terrain. I think we've got that one covered. So let's get these guys up here, have a look and see what we've got. And we will go on to the next turn. So a lot of players are entering the classical era. This is one of the main reasons why we are slipping down the scoreboard, because we've kind of gone in 2 different directions with our science, but we should be okay. We get a major victory, but what we can do is, of course, we don't have the flanking bonus at the moment. If we move these guys over here, now we'll actually have the flanking bonus, so we can do a little bit of extra damage to them. So I want to try and soften them up first with the spearmen. Now these guys can't attack on this turn, unfortunately, but if they get to attack on the next turn, then hopefully we can kill them with these and get the experience. Let's carry on looking around up here, though that is probably going to be the end of the map. Shrine is almost complete. Another player has entered the classical era. London demands marble. Don't think we have any nearby. We found some bananas, and we have found the end of the map. So we are going to have to try and go over here and deal with the barbarian problem. Might not be a bad thing, because we would certainly gain some reputation with Kathmandu, and also we'd gain the extra gold. We might even find there's another civilization over here, so it's well worth doing that. These guys have started to run. This will be a decisive victory, so that will be our warriors gaining some experience from that one. And we'll just get these guys to heal up. Shrine is now complete, so what we will probably do is build ourselves a granary and get that going. And of course we have our farm now. Now let's go and start getting this silver connected up. Now we're not working it at the moment. We shouldn't be working these tiles because we only have a population of 4. So yeah, we're working the farm. We're working the food and the gold and the production. We will get another farm in one of these tiles. We will also get a plantation on the silk as soon as we get calendar, although we are going for optics first. And then once we've done that, we'll get the 2 mines set up here, and we will at least have the silver even if we're not working those tiles. So we'll do one more turn before I end this video, because it's already gone on for far too long. Somebody else has founded a pantheon. We want to tell these guys to produce a mine, so let's get straight on with that. And we get a unit promotion with these guys. Let's go and give them drill and get them to fortify until healed. Now, we can see here, we actually have a Celtic settler. Now, I could potentially try and wipe them from the game very, very early on by stopping them from settling a second city. It might be a while before we can take Edinburgh, but I can certainly declare war on them if they come out and try and capture their settler and stop them from settling another city. Particularly if they're going to try and expand to the west, which I don't really want them to do. Of course, if they want to plonk a city right down here and claim this marble and silver, I can always capture that city, which isn't a terrible thing. So let's start heading back with our scouts and see if we can find what's going on over here with the barbarians. I did say that was going to be the last turn, but I want to play one more. So as you can see, they are moving over this way. And I think I am going to make an early declaration of war on them. Now, I'll be out of range of their city. Now, we are getting 1 gold per turn from them currently, but I'm not too bothered about that. So we have gone straight to war. But this is what we are going to be doing. So obviously we don't have combat bonus versus barbarians because they're not barbarians. We weren't at full strength to begin with, but we do have the flanking bonus. We certainly have enough strength to do a bit of damage to them. Let's just go on to the next turn just for the sake of it and see what happens. They could just decide to pop their city straight there to stop us getting the settler, which is what I would do, to be honest. But they've decided not to do that. So we're going to move these guys up, and we are going to kill them with the spearmen, because the spearmen will actually get XP, because these aren't barbarians. So as you can see, we get ourselves 10 XP. And we also get ourselves a free worker. If you capture somebody else's settler, it becomes a worker. You can't use somebody else's settler because, of course, it would be the wrong type of unit. We'll let the war stay as it is for now, because that might give us the opportunity to kill a couple more of their units. And we're going to move our scout across. So, there you go. We've made a good start. We are still at the bottom of the scoreboard, but we've already declared war with our first rival nation. We might be able to cut them off and take their capital before they have an opportunity to even build a second city, which would be great for us. We are losing gold per turn. That's mainly because we now have quite a few units to maintain, and it didn't help getting that additional worker. What I might actually consider doing is getting rid of that worker, because we don't have an awful lot of land that we can upgrade, and having the additional workers probably isn't going to help. What I will do though is I'll move them into my territory, and I should get a bit of gold for selling them. It's only going to take them a few turns to get there. And we may consider building a second city, possibly down here for the silver. We want to try and keep as many of our cities coastal as possible to aid with the production of ships. So having a city down here on one of these coastal tiles might be a really good idea. Now, just before I end, one thing about placement of cities on coastal tiles, which I find quite important. Be really careful about the tile that you choose, because when it's a map like this, an archipelago map, and you can be attacked from the sea, your cities can be sieged by water. Take, for example, this tile here. I know it's difficult to see because of where it is. I don't think there's a better example that I can really use that we can see easily. Let's just have a quick look. No, there isn't really. So let's say we decided to place a city here on this tile. And let's just say that all of these tiles around here are water. So what could technically happen is another player could place boats in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tiles. 8, 9. There's a lot of tiles, water tiles, that are within range of this tile here. Now, a lot of them are within bombardment range if they are frigates or even battleships, which have a range of 3. But what you've got to remember is ranged combat ships can only do damage to a city. They can't actually capture a city. For a city to be captured, it has to be captured by a melee ship, something like a ironclad or a destroyer or a privateer. Now, with the city on this hex here, it is possible that there could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 naval ships all adjacent to the city, which means in a single turn there could be 5 melee attacks, which makes the city very, very easy to capture. If you were instead to build your city on a hex like this one, it's still a coastal hex, but there's only one water hex next to it. Which means if somebody else moves a melee ship into this hex and attacks your city, they're kind of stuck. Because once the melee ship has attacked, that melee ship can't move until the next turn. And that also means that they can't move a second melee ship in to attack. So the best thing to try and do when you set up coastal cities is look for hexes that are only next to a single water hex, because that gives you the most defense from melee naval units. Of course, it does mean that they could have more melee land units around you. That's fair enough. But this place is quite well defended. It's got mountains on 2 sides. It only has 3 land hexes next to it and only has a single water hex. But it's certainly a lot more protected than placing a city on a single piece of land like that can be attacked from 5 different hexes. So that's the best advice I can give about placing coastal cities. Try and place them on hexes like this, where the sea comes in, as opposed to hexes like that, where the land sticks out. So there you go, guys. That is our first video as London, heading for a mostly naval domination victory. And I'll see you next time. So until then, goodbye for now.